on the old YouTube. Talking about sports for me and you. Roope and Rumsey is their name. Chat about things from the latest game. Roope and Rumsey, oh Roope and Rumsey. It's time for Roope and Rumsey. The boys.
All right. Well, welcome to another edition of the R&R Show. Sit back and relax and enjoy the best little sports show ever. I'm your host, Michael Roop. This is my co-host, William Rumsey. Hello, William.
Howdy.
All right. Well, listen, we are now going into the second part of our top 20. We are going to unveil number 11 through 20 on me and William's list. And I think we had maybe one different in our top 10, maybe two.
Maybe a couple.
Yeah, we'll unveil those again in order on our page once we get these uploaded. So without further ado, who do you have at your number 11?
I have Mr. DeAndre Hopkins.
DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
Lots to like about DeAndre.
Man, definitely. And, you know, on a new team, I mean, it's a little bit uneasy going into a new system, but it's the, Cliff Kingsbury, Kyler Murray show out there in Arizona. So I think that he's going to fit right in and have another stellar season.
Yep, lots to like about DeAndre. He actually did not make my top 20. Oh, wow.
What?
No, he did not. But
Man.
not to say that he isn't deserving. I mean, a lot of these guys are so close. But again, DeAndre Hopkins in that offense, I'm excited to see.
So do you think he or Michael Thomas has the best hands in the league? Probably close.
Close. Oh, man, that's tough. I mean, you're splitting hairs there. Again, I seen Hopkins make just unbelievable catches. I think he's more of the highlight reel catch.
Yeah.
I think Thomas is more just the consistent, anything in his radius he's going to catch. But I think Hopkins is more the tougher degree catch.
Yeah, so in his 7-year career, he's only missed 2 games. You have the health factor.
Yep.
Last couple years, he's had over 100 receptions. I mean, he's good on the touchdown count. I mean, he's a stud.
Yep. There's a lot to like about him.
Not even in the top 20.
No,
Man.
And the reason is because I just think, unlike Houston, Arizona has just a lot more weapons. Fitzgerald's still going to demand a few catches a game. They've got Christian Kirk, which they love, and he showed a lot of promise last year.
Yeah.
Kenyon Drake, which Houston never had a good, really a running back.
I just don't know if he's good.
He
played well down the stretch last year, but if you look at his career, the fact where some people are drafting that guy, I just can't get on board with that.
Yep. Well, you may question where I have him.
I can't even remember if I put him on this list or not.
Well, let's see. So my number 11, you've already discussed him, was the Cheetah, Tyreek Hill. I won't go into it a lot for the viewers at home, but I will just tell you he is the focal point, him and Kelsey, of that offense. I'm expecting big things. He's been spouting off on social media, basically just trying to amp himself up even for a bigger year, getting into a couple little, wars with a few different receivers. I don't know if you saw the one with Keenan Allen, where Keenan Allen's actually called him out for being higher rated than him, and he didn't like that. I'm like, come on, Keenan. He said not even close to being the route runner. I think Cheetah's wanting to prove a lot of naysayers wrong, and I expect big things out of him this year. So, all right, who you got at number 12, buddy?
Mr. Joe Mixon.
Joe Mixon,
yes. New day.
Absolutely.
So you've already hit on Joe. What was he? He finished in...
I think he was number 8 on my list.
Number 8. So, I mean, Joe has been pretty damn good since he came into Cincinnati.
Yep.
He has great hands. Obviously you hit on the fact that Mr. Joe Burrow's coming in this year. Without the OTAs and the offseason, I mean, Burrow, I think, is going to be may get off to a little bit of a slow start. So I think those checkdowns to Joe Mixon will be at the forefront. Mixon, I think, will be the pinnacle of the offense.
Yep.
The O-line has been improved since last year. I think you touched on that.
Yep.
And really, last year, the offense was 30th in points and 26th in total yards. And Mixon still had a great year. The only place they can go is up.
Yep. I agree with all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Mixon a lot this year. Obviously, a little bit higher on my list. Number 12 on my list is one Aaron Jones. I actually have a lot of stock in Aaron Jones. I thought he was going to break out last year. It ended up proving me right. I had him on like 4 or 5 different teams.
And I've got him at number 13, so
okay.
we'll just piggyback off.
Yeah. And again, I think Aaron Rodgers trusts 2 people on this team: Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams. Yeah. Jones is a unbelievable pass catcher. I don't know if there was that one Monday night game where he had a couple of.
Were you going against me in that game?
I believe so. Yeah. And he absolutely,
even if you weren't, that's creates drama for the R&R
show. It does. And Aaron Jones, Aaron Jones almost brought me back to a unprecedented 73rd title last year on that last game. But lots to like about Aaron Jones. The only drawback is they brought in A.J. Dillon, which he's a bigger bruiser.
Yeah.
And you may think that he may take some of those goal line touches away.
Yeah. 19 touchdowns last year. I mean, he's probably, let's just go on a limb, say he's going to regress from that number. But say he even goes down to 12 touchdowns, that's still a solid year. Like you said, he catches the ball, had almost 50 receptions last year, almost 500 yards receiving. Fantasy analysts are probably the most on the fence about Aaron Jones.
Yep.
From what I've read and what I've seen, you touched on it, with the new running back in town. Again, I hit on it before. The Packers are just weird right now. I just can't put my finger on it. But just what the year that he had last year, still a young guy. You just have to probably take him in the top 15.
Lots to like about him. I mean, you can't knock the guy for whatever reason. They were wanting to do a timeshare with him for whatever reason, and he was the far superior running back, and it showed with that Jonathan Williams.
Yeah.
But I think he's out of the mix this year. If not,
he probably will be. He's probably on the cusp of being cut.
Yeah, with A.J. Dillon now in the mix, I got to think that. And again, contract year.
Oh.
I mean, Aaron Jones, and that's probably why they kind of brought in A.J. Dillon. Mm-hmm. Green Bay may do a total revamp after this year.
Yeah.
And let some of the new guys play. So that was your 13. My number 13 is, again, another guy that I owned a lot of stock on last year that I got him before the breakout, which is one Austin Eckler.
Easy Eckler.
Oh, my God. There was a lot to like about this guy. He was on pace for 2,000 yards before Melvin Gordon came back, and he still had a great year even when he came back, and Melvin Gordon is no longer on the roster.
Get him out.
And I'm telling you right now, he is a quarterback safety net's dream. He reminds me a lot of like a Darren Sproles.
That's funny, but I think he is. That's crazy. I was exactly going to say. I think he's what everybody hoped Darren Sproles would be.
Okay.
I think he's had better. I mean, he had better numbers than Darren
Correct.
Sproles.
I mean, but like really quick from that short amount of space. I expect, again, big things from him. The only drawback with this year with Eckler, with the new coach, or not the new coach, the new quarterback. But I think that's actually only going to probably help him, because if Tyrod's not comfortable, it's just a quick little dump off to Eckler, and Eckler is great in space. So.
Yep. No. Yeah.
You got anything to add to that, William? Well, yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, who do you got your number 14, buddy?
I have Miles Sanders.
Yes.
Miles Sanders. You already talked about him. My first, I think he could be top 5 next year. Just a young, up-and-coming stud. They said, a quote from one of the fantasy websites, he's a multi-dimensional player and a superior athlete. The only concern is Doug Peterson in the past has liked to use the committee approach, but I think Miles, he just doesn't have, nobody else on that roster can bring to the table what he can.
No.
So I think he will be the bell cow.
I absolutely concur. Number 14 for me, you already touched on him, is Julio Jones. You've already went at length. Absolutely the picture-perfect receiver. The thing, like you had mentioned, the only thing with him is will he get the touchdowns.
Yeah.
The only other drawback, Calvin Ridley, if he stays healthy, I could see him cutting into a little bit more because Ridley is really blossoming into a favorite target of Matt Ryan's also. But with the tight end Hooper gone, maybe there's a couple extra.
Hayden Hurst moved in, but he's going to have to prove
again. I think there's going to be some extra receptions in there to suffice both of those, Ridley and Jones. But Jones, solid pick, consistency.
You just feel better when Julio's on your team.
You do.
I've had him on my team a couple times, and it's just going in.
I think I've hit him on there once. The keeper team, nobody has.
Yeah.
Sullivan's been hoarding it.
He has.
So, but who do we got at, what do we got, number 15?
I have Mr. Nick Chubb.
Lots to like about Nick. What do you like about him?
So last year he rushed for nearly 1,500 yards, 8 touchdowns. Doesn't catch the ball a whole lot, and that is my concern with him, with Kareem Hunt being there. Yep. But they brought in a new head coach. Hopefully they have a new philosophy. That coach they had last year, get him out of here.
Terrible.
Kevin Stefanski coming over from Minnesota, loves to run the ball. I don't know that they fully trust Baker Mayfield yet. So I think they're going to feed Nick Chubb early and often. It just depends on how much Kareem Hunt will cut in. Because his carries last year when Kareem came back, they definitely went down. I mean, he was averaging probably about 20 a game. Kareem came back, it was down to about 15.
Yep. I mean, that's, and I'll go into a little bit more, but that's really my only concern with Chubb is the Kareem factor, because as a runner, I think he has the potential to be once they get Hunt out of there, a 3-down back. And I think it'll come to a head because Hunt's not going to want to play second fiddle forever after he probably plays another year.
They said on the Ringer, it said a supremely talented back that could explode in the right system. I mean, it's just like use it. I mean, once they're ready to go with him,
Yep. I think it's all systems go. I'm a big fan. I've got a lot of shares of
and just a great name.
Yes, I absolutely. Absolutely. There's a couple of good names playing off of him out there. Number 15 is he has shot up the rankings. He's a nice little rookie, Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Oh, man.
Huh? So, Helaire. So, but he has shot up the rankings, obviously, with the opt-out of Damian Williams. And you know what? If you're going to be the number one running back on the best offensive team in the NFL, you're going to find a spot in our rankings. And Clyde did so. There was a lot to like about him coming out of LSU, and that's why they made the decision. The rich get richer, so to speak. And really, nothing could work out more beautifully with Damian opting out. Everything sets up for a monster year for Clyde.
I mean, on that LSU team last year with just a field full of stars, I mean, he stuck out. I mean, I remember watching him run in the Final Four of the BCS. Just I'm like, who is that kid?
Yep.
You know, he reminds me of a better Austin Eckler.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Today, with the news of Damian Williams, because that opting out, that's why I hesitated to put him, a rookie running back that's competing with carries. That's tough to put him in the top 20. I would have him at 21. I actually put him as a tie with my 20th, but I'm like, that's
he was outside my top 20 until the Damian Williams news.
I have him at 21.
And what gets you really excited about this guy is Andy Reid compared him to one Brian Westbrook. Now, when you get compared to Brian Westbrook, who was under Reid,
staple.
I mean that Westbrook led me to quite a few titles back in the day too.
Oh.
And quite frankly,
how many titles?
Yeah, 72 and counting. So, but I really believe that Clyde is set up for a huge year. And
Clyde the Glide.
Clyde, I love it. I get a little CEH.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
So so who do you got at your 16?
I have another Kansas City Chief, Mr. Travis Kelce.
Can't hit too many Chiefs.
No.
I
love the Chiefs.
Yes.
And it's just fun having Kansas City players on your team. It really, I mean, you get that 4 o'clock game. They're usually on 4 o'clock for the night games, and you just anything can happen at any time with that team. They like to chuck the ball, and just Travis Kelce specifically. I mean, he's probably him and Kittle probably go back and forth between who's going to be the top. But obviously with the offense in Kansas City, hasn't missed a game the last 2 years. Top 2 at his position in the last 4 years. 103 and 97 receptions the last 2 years, which is huge in PPR.
Yep.
TD's dropped off a little bit last year with all those mouths to feed, but, you know.
Hey, there's a lot to like about
I could go on and on. Am I blushing?
No, well, he's on my top 20 list, just a little further down, but and I'll go in a little bit more. But I mean, Kelce, not a lot to love at a very crucial tight end position, which is usually a swing position for teams. So 16, piggybacking off the Chiefs, one Patrick Mahomes, my quarterback, got in there, and again. Quarterbacks probably won't. If you're in a 4-point passing touchdown league,
no, he's going to be on my list too. Do we want to wait a little bit and then we'll just go into him, or?
Yeah, I mean we can. I mean if you want, however you want to do it.
Go ahead.
Oh well, I won't go too much into it. I'm just again being the quarterback and the one that touches the ball every play on the NFL's best offense. The Ferrari, he makes plays all over the field. And he has the best play caller in the league, in my estimation, in Andy Reid, and he puts him in a position. And boy, you saw what he could do. Especially when he came back against Houston. You never feel like in the playoffs, you never feel like the Chiefs are ever out of it. They always have the foot on the pedal, and they just have a lot of playmakers. And in a 6-point touchdown league, which is our format in a few of our leagues that we're in. He's set up for another monster year. Let's just put it that way. Yep. And again, without OTAs and mini camps and a team that's already built, knows each other, I think that they're in for big things again.
Interesting tidbit. He's in the group that's going to buy the Kansas City Royals.
I saw that.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
he's embracing his community that he's in.
He is. Like that. And you know what? And that's a smart move. I don't know who brought him in. I don't know who brought him in for that decision, but that's just smart because, having just like Magic Johnson in LA. I mean, when you have a face guy, and then that's only going to draw more fans. Yeah. So that's a very smart move.
Do you think he's on track to become the best quarterback of all time?
I do.
I do too.
I do. He's a coin flip away, basically from being a 2-time Super Bowl winner. Because if he gets the ball first against New England in those playoffs, they will score, and they would beat the Rams also. That was only his second full year as a starter, and he really should have 2 Super Bowls.
Watching him play the quarterback position is just—it's
unbelievable. Yeah. Health is always going to be the wild card.
He got a little dinged up last year. I mean, his numbers did come down a little bit from. That you're not going to throw for 50 touchdowns every year, but
I suspect he may throw for 40 plus again.
Yeah, that's what my prediction, and I'll just kind of hop at. I predict 4,500 yards and 35 touchdowns for him, which
Yep, I'm going to say he cracks the 40 mark.
Okay,
maybe 41 or 42.
We're going to bet.
We want to possibly side bet. Yeah, let's do a $5. Actually,
I don't, because I want him to throw.
That's right. So, where do we go?
17. Yeah, I have Mr. Chris Godwin.
Yeah.
So the last couple years, him and Mike Evans have been going back and forth. Who's going to be one there? But I think Chris Godwin with the GOAT, Mr. Tom Brady, coming in, I think what he does out of the slot, we know Tom Brady loves his slot receivers. Out of the 1,300 receiving yards he had last year, 800 of those came out of the slot. So I just think, and last year he had 86 receptions for 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns. Jameis Winston, it's kind of, losing him. He's not going to chuck the ball over the other field. I don't think they'll throw as much as they did with Jameis. So I don't know, but I think
they will.
Think so?
I do.
Their running back situation is not very big.
Well, you got Gronk in there, so he does, and that's Tommy terrific safety blanket.
Yeah.
So Tampa's going to be a weird team to. get who's going to.
Yeah.
Who's Brady's going to have an inkling for? Because, if Brady feels comfortable with you, I mean, he'll start peppering you. I know Gronk out of the gate, he knows Gronk. He doesn't know those two yet in game action, so it'll be interesting to see. I expect big things, even without the OTAs, mini games. I think Tampa's offense will be a lot of fun to watch.
Yep,
so
agreed.
17, another quarterback, Lamar Jackson. Again, you're splitting hairs when you go Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. Lamar Jackson looks like a video game. I mean, he literally does. And that last year was his first full year as a starter.
Yeah.
He really has blossomed into something pretty great. And I think John Harbaugh has used him well. Talk about Harbaugh. Funny how he was on the cusp of being fired, and where he's gotten. And I was always crazy to me to think that he was going to be fired, bringing them to 2 Super Bowls, and he was coming off the heels of a playoff.
He just held on to Flacco for too long.
Flacco was dog crap, and they still won despite of him. Now he's getting a dynamic player, and you can see what he does. And with Lamar, besides the video game like speed and quickness, I suspect, and I'm going to call it right now, somewhere along the lines, AB will get on that team.
I just saw he's still pushing for that. I think I saw that on ESPN the other day.
I think for sure that I think he makes it on that team. And boy, when you add a speed guy with Hollywood Brown stretching that field, and then you got AB coming underneath,
Mark Andrews,
and then you have to respect the run and the play action fake and him running around. I mean, there's a lot of things as to put the stress on the defense.
And that's a note. I have him higher on my list, but he lacks right now that true number one. Now, could Hollywood Brown turn into that? He battled some injuries last year, but the talent is definitely there. But
I think
part of me thinks that might, the fact that he doesn't have a true number one, because then he takes off running. I mean, he ran for 1,200 yards and how many touchdowns? 7 touchdowns last year. I mean, those are running back numbers. So the lack of a true number one, he doesn't see somebody open. He just takes off running. And he's probably, if he was a full-time running back.
Well, that's your concern with him because he's going to he's going to take some more this year if they continue that way, just like RG3 did. I mean, that quarterback position is not meant to do it. I mean, he's still young enough where he could probably get away with it for another year or two before he loses a 10th off at 40 times. So.
But he threw for over 3,000 yards, 36 touchdowns to only 6 interceptions. I mean, it's amazing to think back when those pundits were talking through the draft and they were like, he ought to try out at wide receiver. Yeah. That's amazing.
That's crazy. I mean, just crazy to think, but there's a lot to like about him. Yeah. So who do you got at, you're 18?
18, Mr. George Kittle, Stone Cold Kittle.
I like that. Yeah, I've never heard that.
I looked up his nickname today. I was like, Stone Cold Kittle.
Stone Cold cool. Kittle. Yeah, like it.
He's an animal.
Love him.
6'4", 250 pounds. Just he's one of those players that just looks to hurt people out there when he's running the ball. I think if Jimmy Garoppolo can take the next step, I think that will push Kittle. Travis Kelce's getting a little long in the tooth. I think that will push Kittle up another notch to the top dog.
Interestingly enough, when he was a rookie, a lot of people were like, "Oh, he's just too thin. He's just too thin." He's like, "He'll break." And when I first saw him play, I'm like, What are they looking at? He doesn't
6'4", 250.
Yeah, I'm like he's not
going to break somebody else. They don't really have a number one receiver with the 49ers. I mean, they drafted Ayuk. How do you pronounce that? Ayuk? He could be good. Debo Samuel's hurt. So Kittle is the number one mouth to feed there. Interestingly, he tied for the 8th most targets inside the 10-yard line last year, but just the 48th most touchdowns, which tells me Garoppolo needs to get better.
Yep.
Down around the end zone.
Agreed.
All
right, good pick. I love Kittle. Number 18, you've already touched on him. I won't get too much into him. I chose Nick Chubb Again, the only takeaway from Chubb, we touched on that, was Kareem Hunt. You got to think that Chubb probably would be easily in my top 10 if Hunt wasn't there. That line's going to be better, and I just think Chubb, if they didn't have Hunt, he would easily be top 10. Because he would get those receptions. But that's the only drawback. But Nick Chubb is a solid 18, and he should be picked high on no later. He won't fall out of the second round in any draft. So, who do you got your number 19?
We'll go back to the Ferrari, Mr. Patrick Mahomes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we've already touched on. I mean, it's funny on all these rankings that you read out online, they don't specify that whether it's a 4-point for a touchdown pass or 6-point. And a 6-point lead, the way I looked at it, can I pass on Patrick Mahomes for anybody that is behind him on this list? I cannot. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I did that. So, I'll tell you what, if we're in a fantasy draft and I had a couple beers, he might go higher.
He might go, I mean, because he's enticing.
Yes.
I mean, when you hear that he's had a 50 touchdown, and he's only, how old is he?
24, maybe.
Yeah.
24,
you're like, oh my God. I mean, he has the potential of 50 every year.
Yeah.
And that entices you. Yeah. And you're going to have to reach for some of these people, and Mahomes is one of them, because like, if you think he's going to be at 19 and a 6, he probably is not, because there's always one or two people in a draft room, and that's the big thing about these rankings. If you like somebody, you're usually going to have to reach a little bit for him, or you're not going to get him because there's other people in the room thinking the same thing.
Yeah, and to quote your, Colin Cowherd, he's always talking about maturity. Patrick Mahomes is the pillar of maturity.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't think he said one controversial thing in his career.
Nope.
So I love the Ferrari.
I love the Ferrari also. Number 19, we touched on him briefly just a moment ago, is one Kenyon Drake. He lined up, basically he's lined up for a breakout year, although he broke out kind of at the end of last year.
He did.
And I like where he's at in the offense. I mean, that's an explosive offense. And he was a beast last year when he got traded over to the Cardinals. And he has the talent to be a crack the top 10. And why that is because there's no David Johnson. He's going to get the passes. I mean, there's no room.
We're at your draft.
Yep.
You got a couple beers in you.
Yep.
You got a little beer in you.
Yep.
You're picking 19.
Yep.
And you've got DeAndre Hopkins there and Kenyon Drake. Who are you picking?
Kenyon Drake.
You shitting me?
No, I am not.
Man.
You've heard it here first.
You have.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm taking Kenyon Drake.
Drake, it's funny, all these fantasy analysts out here do have him very high. Some even in the top 10.
Yep.
I've just looked at his numbers and I
can't
know
get behind it.
I cannot. It's like Dalvin Cook last year. So I could definitely we could be here next year.
Well, this could be the Dalvin Cook situation.
Yeah, but I had, I was moving him around when I was putting this list together. And I just kept thinking, I was like, all these other guys, if they're on the board while Kenyon Drake is, I'm taking the other guy.
He doesn't have David Johnson lurking over his shoulder. Not that mention mattered last year, but
I know he was with the Dolphins.
And he was just learning the system right out of the gate, midway through the year. So I just think another year, it's just going, and that offense is going to be even more explosive. I'm telling you, I think he could easily crack the top 10 this year.
So. All right.
Yep.
Cool.
Who do we got as your number 20?
I have Mr. Lamar Jackson.
Oh, Lamar.
So we already talked about him, so we won't,
There's a lot to love about him.
There is.
Yep. He's just a dynamic player. My number 20, you've already touched on him, is Travis Kelce. For me, tight end has always been a position that I kind of make sure that I'm always ahead of the curve than behind the curve. You will never find a group-led fantasy team without a good tight end.
Agreed.
I always think that is just the swing position, because if you don't get one of those top dogs, then it's just always a fall off. Now there will always be a couple little wild cards. actually on Kittle. I got on him early
I
in
did
a lot
too.
of my leagues that I was in when he was a rookie. Knowing I thought there was a lot to like about him. Darren Waller was another one. If you remember last year, I called it a draft day. Nobody knew about him.
Who did I call? Mark Andrews.
Yes.
I read a lot about him and the Mark Andrews and the rapport that he was building
Yep.
with Lamar, and I hopped on him early.
Waller, Waller jumped out at me because of the HBO thing they do, Hard Knocks. Yeah, I kept watching. I was like, the more I watched and read about him, he was like nobody wanted to guard him in practice.
Yeah.
He was just a matchup nightmare, and I knew there was something going on with him.
The argument against tight ends is basically when you take them in the second round, which I can't imagine. I mean, Kelsey could sneak at the tail end of, somebody's really ambitious about Travis Kelsey. He could go last pick of the first round maybe, but the argument against that is, when you take a tight end that early, you're going to be
round one. I mean, that's
no. I'm just saying if somebody was at number 12, because I've seen him ranked as high as 12.
Yes, I have, but I would definitely encourage you not to, because then that's just going to put you at a disadvantage at that running back position.
Right, and that's the argument for taking a tight end
Yep.
in the second round is
Yep.
because you're going to miss out on filling. A running back or another wide receiver position.
Yes.
So, but I'm with you. It just makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside when I have that tight end position. Yep. And last year I'd had Travis Kelsey and Mark Andrews,
Yep.
And it was just
Yep.
it was wonderful.
More times than not, you will see me.
But it didn't matter because I ran up against Michael Thomas.
That's right. Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah. Oh, and that might be coming up on a future episode of our top 5 fantasy moments.
Yes, we will be having a future episode. As William mentioned, we will be having our top 5 all-time fantasy moments, baseball or football.
Yeah.
That's going to be a lot of fun because I think there might be a moment or two with you and I in them. Again, let us know where we were right, where we were wrong. We will get these uploaded. Again, a lot of fun. Fantasy football is around the corner. We'll
exciting.
probably go in a little more in depth as far as position, by position coming up. But we wanted to get this top 20 out so we can start the debate. See you guys next time. Thanks.